SCP-7005, The Lampeter. This marks part 2 in my Lampeter series. Before we get to the reading, I want to thank you all for 250 subscribers. It means a lot to me to see how much this channel has grown. Thanks for sticking around, and we'll begin. The day we buried my sister, it was sunny. It was scorching. It was a little cemetery in the city, a scrap of dried out grass, yellow and burnt. When I think back on it, it doesn't feel like home, but I suppose it must have, back then. I'd never really known anything else. I didn't cry, I don't remember much, but I remember that. The shock was too deep. I couldn't understand what had happened to her. I stood there, between my parents, my mom veiled, and my father racked and sobbing. I was only 8, and she had just been smiling up at me. The day wasn't anything. It meant nothing. It didn't feel like any funerals I'd seen on TV, those sealed markers of ending. It was just a day, while the grasshoppers hummed and the wind blew through the stalks. She wasn't gone. She was right there, in that box. There was no story to be told except that of the gravedigger's earth rhythmically drumming on the coffin. When we left to our new house in the country, we took the train. My parents tried to talk all afternoon, but I didn't need them to. The wheels slipped across the tracks, embedded in the grass and wire, with greenery outside flowering further and further, and I felt happy. Now I could see it, the escape, the recreation, the play of the clouds, the wind in the air, the apples of autumn. I write this on the last line back to normalcy, only to find that the 05 Council has gone insane. They're burning the Foundation from the inside out. Kells is probably drunk on the floor, cursing himself and everyone around him, and the neon god prays at my periphery, almost seen, almost there, but always towering above all else. Nobody will read these words I write. But oh, my dearest friends, you don't have to. The words will stand regardless. Dr. Rosie Harderpool. By order of the 05 Council, the following file is level 5/7005 classified. Unauthorized access is forbidden. SCP-7005. Object Class Thaumiel. SCP-7005 has been placed under the purview of a newly founded Department of Interdimensional Logistics, which is currently operating out of Site-565, and is provisionally headed by Dr. Rosie Harderpool and Dr. Simon Kells. Current operational guidelines, rather than focusing on containment, have been designated to continue to facilitate communication and travel across the multiverse. For this reason, an unusual degree of latitude has been afforded for the hiring of personnel and access of non-Foundation personnel to 7005. Some containment measures in Universe A001 Prime have been deemed necessary, however. Specifically, Foundation personnel have secured all known entrances to 7005, preserving the public nature of the buildings where appropriate, and otherwise creating temporary research sites to allow Foundation members to easily travel between universes. 7005 is a multi-dimensional transport network, commonly known as Lampeter. 7005 consists of a number of conventional forms of transport, including for example, trains, automobiles, planes, hot air balloons, and the Mongol Yam system, which has been anomalously altered to move between different timelines, universes, and realities. 7005 also contains a number of pocket universes, specifically designed to serve as intersections and transport hubs. 7005 plays a critical role in interdimensional communication and transport for both the Foundation and the anomalous underground at large. Its full extent in both this universe and others comprise over 4,000. Its full extent in both this universe and others comprise over 4,000 known universes, with many more suspected to exist. 12 departure points are known to exist in the Prime Universe. But many more are known from anecdotal evidence. It was run by the Lampeter Non-Euclidean Shipping Company, or LNES, from the early 17th century until 2021, when the LNES went bankrupt. Since then, the Foundation has stepped in to administrate the network in order to prevent a complete collapse in the transdimensional communications network and the numerous Z-class scenarios that would precipitate. Foundation control currently only extends to about 832 distant stations. However, it appears important routes on the border networks continue to be maintained by groups of volunteers, small-scale private enterprises, and agreements between multidimensional warlords. Full Foundation control is expected to be complete in 2070. The sheer scale of SCP-7005 is difficult to describe. Every time we find another gateway, another door in a train station, or a portal hidden in a marsh, I keep thinking about those first Lampeters and what they must have achieved. The amount of power it takes just to send a message from one universe is immense. It requires an anomalous power source capable of routing staggering amounts into extra-physical realms. We've all read the Scranton account of the places between realities. Now, imagine trying to find the parameters of that nothing place, that limbo, trying to define the undefinable. As far as we can tell, no new universes have been added to the network in some time. The technology seems to have been lost decades, maybe centuries ago. We haven't gotten the slightest idea how it was done. The Lampeter records were lost in the final years of the LNES's existence. Some station masters have spoken of great images and murals detailing the technique, but we've found no trace of them. Maybe one day we'll find the fabled Z999. Maybe there we'll find an answer to this question. Who is mad enough, who's daring enough to punch the first holes between the universe? What kind of brain is able to work through these endless anomalous problems of physics and reality? We have no idea what kind of twist in the head is necessary to see the world in the right way. The physical space Lampeter holds is immense, yet negligible. It is a network known to only those in the know, its stations hidden in the most remote places or the most unassuming. Its very existence is an enormous technical feat. I like to picture it, a network of stations and resting posts stitching together different lines and threads, existing on an entirely separate axis of being to the ones we know. But that's not it at all. When you look at it, it's just sheds and warehouses, a cascade of back rooms, a lot of very, very tired employees, and an interminable decay. Dr. Simon Kells. The following is an interview between Dr. Harterpool and M. Remu, an employee on SCP-7005 in Universe G299, Fayer Tomb. This was conducted as part of Dr. Harterpool's attempt to gain a greater understanding of the history and nature of 7005, due to the loss of the vast bulk of the LNES's archival records. Begin log. The camera opens onto a mountainside. Dr. Harterpool is heading toward a small cabin some 70 or 80 meters away. It is snowing heavily and the sky is a solid gray. After a minute, Dr. Harderpool reaches the door of the cabin and opens it. Inside, a figure, Ramu, can be seen to the right of the cabin, sitting at a table with a headset on. A bed can be seen at a far side. Several prints, mostly paintings of cherry blossoms, are plastered on the cabin's walls. A small table is sitting at the center, and a kitchen area with a kettle and a hob is visible at the far left. 9-4. 942. 9-4. Nope. Southeastern. Eastern. Jerry, do we have to do this every... Hello? Oh! Ramu turns abruptly. I'll call you back, Jer. Ramu puts down the headset and gets up, smiling. I'm so sorry, I wasn't expecting any visitors. Please. Ramu gestures to the table in the center of the room. Dr. Harderpool sits and smiles at him. Ramu starts making 2 cups of tea in the kitchen area. I won't bite. Ramu laughs. When you live in a small wooden hut, hundreds of miles up the side of the mountain, you don't often expect visitors. I don't suppose Lampeter ever considered moving you to somewhere more reachable? Somewhere that didn't require a ludicrous amount of power and precision to jump to? Oh, but it doesn't. Back in the olden days, when this place was inhabited, and how long ago was that? There is a short pause. Centuries. This is a tomb world. Have you met many of those? A few. I've passed through at least 3 on the way here. Huh. Well, did you consider just taking the ski lift over there? There is a short pause. There are protocols. This is technically classified by the Foundation as newly reclaimed, which means... But you're Rosie Harderpool, aren't you? Our Lady and Mistress? Look, if I do it, it looks bad for the whole department. Fine, I'm not offended, but the line's safe, really. Not the way I hear it. 7 missing in this quadrant alone. But none at this station. I run a tight ship here. So why doesn't everyone else? Ramu returns to the table with 2 mugs of tea. He places one in front of Dr. Harderpool and sits opposite of her, stirring his tea and looking intently at her. She takes a sip of the tea, staring back. You never saw this in the good old days, did you? Did you? The Lampeter lines have been here for centuries. Their golden age must have ended long before the company fell into disrepair. Didn't the last member of the family burn himself alive? That's a rumor that's impossible to confirm, given what happened to the archives. Okay, fine. I never saw it in its glory days either, but I've heard about it. We all have. The stories down the line passed on by passenger and station master. A little stop like this would have had 3 or 4 employees at all times. Constant maintenance, hundreds of lifts running up and down the cables every hour, dozens upon dozens passing through, and the people, all flying to so many stations. Golden places, they said. They always say things like that. But it makes sense, though. Whoever the early Lampeters were, smashing holes in reality, they must have had big ambitions. A lot of capital behind them. Yeah, they must have. But now look. I'm not saying you people didn't do a good thing stepping in as you did, but it's getting really harder. One of the cables snapped last month. We were out of action for a week. I'm sorry, but I don't get to decide how much money we're allocated. I try to tell them, but no, I know how it goes. The illness. Yeah, okay. It wasn't much better towards the end. But it's cold up here. Shifts are extended. I've lived here half a year now, barely getting to go home at all. My adopted home then, a place that isn't a hut on the side of a frozen mountain. Fair enough. You don't have a home. Things are straining. The network can't go on like this. A whole chunk of the line is being routed through here, through a ski lift station. We don't have the manpower for something like that. The only reason we have a station here like this is because the holes had to be here, or something. Dr. Harderpool leans backwards. Had to be here? Look, I don't know, it's old station lore. There was something about the location they chose. Weak points or something. Places where it was easier to build. The two are silent for a few moments, drinking their tea. I got curious. I thought I'd ask around, talk to some of the old hands from the Elness. We have no archives, so I thought, you have to start somewhere. It's not exactly a professional interview, but I had some free time. I just wanted to see it for myself, I suppose. Why are you here anyway? Ramu nods. I get it. Lampeter, SCP-7005, is important. It binds things together, all reality. Did it need binding, though? Oh yes. How else will we find God? You think all of this is to find God? I don't exactly know what it's for, but it's the only way to do it. And I guess it doesn't have to be God, exactly, but there's nothing else beyond this. Every possibility contained in every universe stretching on to eternity. It really is the final frontier, this multiverse. If anything can find a hidden unity, it's Lampeter. Maybe there are multiverses beyond this one. What does that mean? I don't know. Just something my colleague Kells was talking about. Ah, our Lord and Master. So he likes to think, but I don't think I agree with you. All reality bound as one. It's a good dream as any, but a dream as big as that has to be better than as good as any. Nobody can escape a thing like that. There won't be anywhere left if things get weird for all reality. Maybe. But what else have you got? There is another pause. Dr. Harderpool gets up, walks over to the window, and looks out. Do you know what happened to the archives? Is there any station lore about that? Oh yes. They say John Lampeter, the last of the family, went mad. Ah, so he did burn himself to death. Well, maybe. I will not speak ill of the dead. But they said he found something, somewhere, deep in the east of the line. The east? There are no compass points in a multiverse. No, but it's easier to think of it that way. All the area you control is the west. You've got more of it than you think. Then there's the center, full of interchanges and half-abandoned stations. A broken network that was once Lampeter's crowning glory. Then there's the east. Nobody knows what goes on there. Why? Like I said, I've been working this part of the line my whole career. I don't get a lot of time to talk to the passengers. The lifts all pass above my head. So John Lampeter found something out there that drove him mad. Yep. And then the flames roared bright and high. Poetic. What's the light? This is a tomb world. Most tomb worlds are, well, full of tombs. Exactly. The retrenched priests of the Flaming Heart believed in the glory of decay itself. Each one of the tombs burn eternally, keeping each corpse in a constant state of destruction. Ashes fall off continually, transforming into fuel as they float to the ground. The body is never destroyed, but it's always losing more of itself. Do you know how many files we currently have in the Foundation's database? 7,000. 7,000 individual anomalies. And yet, barely 10 universes away, the laws of entropy are suspended, and thousands of tombs litter the surface of an alien world. Is that meant to be shocking? No. No, I suppose not. Dr. Harderpool returns to her seat, staring at her mug. You're a creature of decay too, I suppose. All you station masters seem to be. Are you trying to rile me, Doctor? Maybe a little. I was born the son of a Foundation researcher. I grew up to join the Hand. When I was 30, I stumbled across a Foundation file that told a story of how Matthew Rumsfeld fell through time as a teenager. He changed his name to Ramu and lived a broken and unhappy life in the distant past. He grew old and died, but you knew all this already. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'm a rat of the nails, Rosie Harderpool. Like we all are. Like you, I took my other self's name to remind me that if I wasn't here, I'd be there, or somewhere else entirely. Here, though, on the boundary between possibilities, maybe I really can find God. I hope you do. Hey, wait. Dr. Harderpool stops and turns. Ramu moves over to his work table and writes something onto a piece of paper. He hands it to Dr. Harderpool. If you really want to know what's out there, try this guy, Universe F433. He used to work in the East, apparently. He might know something more. Thanks. Thanks, Matthew. Anytime, Doc. Dr. Harderpool opens the door and steps out. She looks back one more time and sees Ramu back at his desk, putting his headset on again. 65933. Jer, for the love of... The door closes. End log. Ramu seems to believe that Lampeter, the line, exists solely to find God. Now, we know that isn't the case, but this is the perspective of one person on the line. We will see two more in the next parts to come. And I just wanted to say thank you guys for listening. I did have a 2-hour-long recording that I was going to edit down and just release it as one whole part, but that's a lot for me to do right now. So I will be working on part 3. So thank you so much for listening. And sleep well. Good night.